ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Check this out, we got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for the Breakfast Bankroll with good friend and colleague, Mr. Scotty Webb, live from Tampa, as we discuss the MLB weekend recap. I guess Father's Day. Happy belated Father's Day to all the fathers out there. The shocking news. It was funny. I did not talk to Scotty backstage. I didn't text him last night. My phone's been blowing up since, 7, 8 o'clock last night. Truth be told, I was driving my daughter back to her home in Boston. And I got my good friend in Alabama reaching out to me. Next thing you know, my San Diego guy's reaching out to me. Oh, by the way, JJ Spawn just made a 64-foot putt to win the U.S. Open. And I'm getting the DEVERS news. And I'm like, okay. And I've had, some time now to decipher it. And I could talk for hours about this. Me and Scotty have been talking about this for a long time. And when you take it from a perspective from Scotty's point of view, Scotty played in the majors. You take it from a business point of view, when you take it from when the coach waves the white flag, when your GM and owner fly to Kansas City to talk to you and you're still not listening, and you're the highest paid player on this team. There's so many things to talk about here, so I'm going to bring Scotty in a second. First and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. I hope you took advantage of the promo, DAD. DAD promo DAD, 2 free New York strips or 6 Wagyu burgers. That's right, at AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. Head on over there now. Steaks, chops, seafood, appetizers, wines. Terry's got it all. Order today. You could be grilling by Wednesday. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Mr. Scotty Webb. Morning, champ.
Well, Jeff, I thought about talking to you last night. I thought, well, I think he's been around the block long enough. He'll make it through the night. And then I thought, well, we're doing the show today, so we'll talk today. So anyway, how you doing? You doing okay? I mean, you don't look too bad.
Scotty, I'm gonna not vent. I'm gonna speak my mind. What I told my buddy in San Diego, what I told my buddy in Alabama, what I told all my colleagues. Baseball is the biggest team sport out of all the major sports. And I guess you could say football too, but football, you just need one or two key parts. You need a quarterback, you need a good head coach, and then the rest will fall into place. In baseball, it's about chemistry. It's about clubhouse. It's about believing, working together. So we have talked now, it's June 16th. We talked in spring training. Hey, the Red Sox added Crochet. They added Bregman. Hey, they got some kids in the farm system. We got potential here. Oh, Walker Buehler and a few other pieces. Well, then Devers is at spring training. Bregman arrives and Devers takes 2 weeks off. Nah, he ain't taking my position. I'm the third baseman. And then Cora goes to bat for him. Like, hey, Rafi, let's pump the brakes here. He's a world champ, just like you. He's kind of sort of not a gold glover, but he is what we're looking for. We have opportunities. You can play third. You can play first. You can DH. No, I'll DH now. But my point is, when Bregman gets hurt, Cassis gets hurt, when Cora's like, hey, dude, we kind of need you in one of the corner spots. And then Cora waves the white flag. And then Henry and Breslow fly out to Kansas City to say, hey, Rafi, we need you. You got to play the field here. Nothing. So now, I'll take it a step further here, Scotty, and you'll understand this thinking. The San Francisco Giants, where you and I have talked for years, my little darlings out in the West Coast, were bridesmaids to Judge, Ohtani, and Soto.
And Correa.
But we're talking for the big three, $550 million, $600 plus million, and $700 million. Now you got a malcontent here with Devers for $300 million, and I'm not comparing Devers to those big three, but Devers can rake. We know Devers can rake. So this is a no-brainer for San Fran. Like, holy shit, we're getting a half price here with Devers. We'll eat all this money, and they ship out Jordan Hicks, who's hurt, but we know what he could do in the back end there. Kyle Harrison, 23, we know what he can do. And now, you know, in looking at the big picture, Betts is gone, Bogarts is gone, and Devers is gone. And now they are replaced with Campbell, Anthony, and Myers. There's my spiel.
Yeah, I think that people in Boston Red Sox world have lost their mind. I mean, I get it that they fall in love with these players and so forth, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a lot of that's the lure of baseball. You know, you fall in love with these guys and you see them, you know, all summer, and they see them for years and years, and you know, and all that stuff. But at the same time, from a business side of it, if you pay a guy $300 million and he's going to go hit, he better be the best hitter that there is, because he doesn't do anything else. And not only does he not do anything else, he messes up the locker room. He's not a good teammate and all that stuff. So, and I don't know him personally, but you know, and he could probably be a good guy to some of those guys in the locker room or whatever. But this kind of goes back to, and I say this, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. It kind of goes back to these Dominican type players, and they're a me people, and just watch them in the World Baseball Classic. Watch what they do. Watch their teams. They're really talented players. They don't ever play together. They root. They cheer like crazy people, but they're not really cheering and working as a team. They're just, you know, if you get a base hit, great. If you don't, well, the next guy needs to get a base hit. And if he doesn't, well, then I'm going to try to get a base hit or whatever. But, you know, it's, and you know, I'm not saying San Francisco needs that, but what San Francisco does need is San Francisco needs, you know, I was looking at numbers today because I knew we were going to talk about this. He is a, you know, projected, you know, good offensive player, and he will be by far, I shouldn't say by far, but he will be the best hitter that San Francisco has. And he will be the best hitter that Boston doesn't have. So, he's the best hitter on Boston's team. Now, in terms of weighted runs above average, WAR, right? He's not the best player Boston has. So that then says, well, what does that mean? Well, that takes into account defense, and obviously he's going to not be a defensive player at all. So, when you start to look at offensive WAR, he's going to be really good. But then I stacked him up against everybody. Okay, well, what does he look like against everybody? Well, he's a top 20 hitter in Major League Baseball. That's what he is. He's not a top 10 hitter. He's a top 20 hitter. So, and that's offensive WAR. He's projected at like 20, or maybe it's just where he's at right now. Let me double check. Just make sure I got my numbers of what I'm saying here. All teams. What am I looking at? Here we go. Offensive WAR. That's as of right now. And that's DH. I just looked at the DH. Ohtani's going to beat him in the DH, right? So he's going to be the next best DH there is. So then if you go and say, all right, let's take out the DH and let's take out all positions, and then you start to look down and find out where he's at, offensive WAR. He's currently the 14th best hitter in baseball. And then projected, he is the 20th best hitter in baseball. So, and that's offensive WAR numbers, looking at just those things. So Boston's going to miss out a lot of that. Now, that being said, one player like that doesn't necessarily mean your season's over. And it also doesn't necessarily mean you're not a better team by playing other people to try to play better as a unit, so it's going to be a wait and find out kind of thing for me, because my opinion basically is you pay the guy a lot of money and the guy is going to say, it's me, and the team goes, no, you're not above the team. It's time for you to go. And they get rid of him. And, I don't know what they're going to do with these guys they brought back. Harrison can be good. He made a lot of strides already. And I don't know what Hicks is going to be. He was a closer at one time through 100 miles an hour. So I don't know if they're going to put him in the bullpen. I don't know. You can never have enough starting pitching. So I don't know what they're going to do with these guys, and I don't know the quality of those kids they got. I know one of them was like highly, like their sixth or fourth best, prospect for the Giants. But they're single A type players. They got a lot of development to go. So we'll see kind of how all that plays out for them. But I think they can overcome this, especially if they can get development from Anthony and get some things going on. He can fill that role. He won't be Devers. But over the course of the next 5 years, he might be better than Devers. Now, you've built a team around guys that, want to play together. So it's an interesting concept. It's an interesting situation that happened. To be honest, I'm happy for Boston because I don't think you can run a team the way that they were running that team. There was way too much turmoil, way too much crap going on, way too much nobody's listening to somebody else, and they don't know who to listen to. And then their veteran presence of Devers is like, well, I don't care. Do whatever you want. That kind of thing. As opposed to, no, we're going to run it this way. This is the way we do it in Boston. That's what they need. They need a guy that says, this is how we do it. This is how we do it in Boston. And, Devers wasn't him. So we'll see how it goes from here. But I'm happy to see that you're healthy. I'm happy to see you didn't drive the car off the road last night, because, some of these guys, what's the famous guy? I forget his name off the top of my head now that does all those tweets and stuff for Boston.
Carabas.
Yeah, Carabas. He's gone ape shit, man. That guy is just, off his, oh my God. But point being is, I get it. People go crazy, but I wouldn't necessarily say that Boston's worse than they were. They might be worse in the short term, but as those kids develop, they'll probably be better. And what a timing spot though, right? I mean, they go 8-2 in their last 10 games, and now they're half a game out of the wild card now and stuff like that. So, it's holy shit. I told you I wasn't giving up on Boston. This has been 2, 3, 4 weeks of me saying that, and I'm still not giving up on Boston. I think Boston is as good. So in the American League, I have 2 teams that have separated. I have Detroit and the Yankees. Those 2 teams are separate. Then you can bunch in a bunch of teams, and that bunch in is Houston, it's Minnesota, it's Boston, it's Seattle. They're all the same team in terms of power ranking and things like that. How they win's different, but they're all kind of the same. So Boston can compete with all of that, and you see them. They just swept the Yankees. So it's not that they can't play, and it's not that they can't win, because I think they can. I think they're going to have a tough series in Seattle. I don't think the pitching matchups work for them. And then I don't know what it's going to look like in San Francisco. San Francisco plays really good at home. So this might be oh my God, we just traded our best player. Now look what happened. The boat's sinking, but they'll be all right.
Well, the funny is the Red Sox have won now 5 in a row, 8-2, as you said, in their last 10. If the playoffs started today, they're in. They got 37 wins. So right now the Yankees win the division. The Rays have 39 wins. The Jays have 38 wins. And the Red Sox have 37 wins. Tigers in at 46. Astros in at 41. Rangers, Seattle, and Minnesota all have 36 wins. So the Red Sox would be in. And the big, let's not turn a blind eye, meaning myself here. The big reason is they didn't announce to the world, and there was no bidding war for Devers. Very simply is San Francisco openly took the full 283. Hey, we're going to pay the whole thing. Don't you worry about it. So they cleared the books there, and this is a Pablo Sandoval 2.0 all over. We got someone like Devers who reluctantly can play third. Well, San Fran's got a Gold Glove third baseman. He's not playing third over in San Francisco. He already said he doesn't want to play first, so he's just going to go DH there. And he's no Barry Bonds. We know that. Maybe this speeds up the Yoshida process. Again, it opens up the lanes where all 3 kids can now play whenever the hell they want. Now you turn the page and say, Trevor Story's playing well again. Bregman's ahead of schedule. And now that thought process of moving Duran, maybe that slows that down, says, hey guys, we did this, as you said. The inmates aren't running the asylum here. This is not the NBA either here. He was a malcontent. He was not a good clubhouse guy. He was an eye guy. Anyone else want to leave? Because as you see, we're not afraid to move anyone. You want to go? You're next. And I said this tongue-in-cheek on Friday about Savali in Milwaukee. Don't ask to get traded because you can get shipped to the White Sox in 2 seconds. So I am okay with this move in the long-term picture. Now, of course, they freed up that money. Who's a free agent next year? Kyle Tucker? Well, then maybe Duran does. Well, I don't know. But as you said, they go to Seattle, then they go to San Fran. It will be interesting to see how they play this week. But I think in the long term, they got the clubhouse back. And I'm really intrigued now, Scotty, how Cora now begins to manage. Or now, once the cancer is out of the locker room, now is it a Cora versus Breslow? Who's going to get shipped next?
Could be. I think that, part of where they're at now is because aren't those guys having a press conference today to talk about all that stuff and whatever, they'll get grilled over in Boston. But, the reality becomes is let's let things cool off. We got lots of money now. We can go buy whatever we want. And so they might get some fancy nice new car. So you might have said, oh shit, we just got rid of this guy, this car, and then you might get a new car. So it's the way baseball works, man. It's just a matter of certain things. But I don't know. Obviously they did a lot to make him fit in Boston after Bregman's deal. You know what I mean? Like he didn't want to play third, and then he didn't want to play first, and then they're like, okay, we'll let you play DH, and now we need you to do other things, and you won't do it. All right, well, good. Get the hell out. We if you don't want to do stuff to be a Boston Red Sox, get the hell out. We're gonna do other things and get other people in here that want to be Boston Red Sox players. His scenario won't necessarily be that way on another team. Every team has different needs and different functions, and who knows what it's going to be like and how he functions in San Francisco. But I would assume that he doesn't have any of those worries or any of that stuff going out there. I don't know how he's going to fit in San Francisco with those players. I do know that what San Francisco needs, it's Devers. I mean, Devers is a power hitter. He is a hitter, and he's a left-handed hitter. And when you start to function about what that team was missing, they don't have 30, 40 home run guys. They don't have them. So now they got one. And I was looking, and I say this on the show all the time. You need RBI guys. And you need 100 RBI guys, meaning, they drive in 100 runs. That's what Devers does. The Giants don't have that. They have good players, but they don't have a steady drive them in, I'm going to get, and we can all sit here and say what we want to about Chapman. I like Chapman. Everybody likes Chapman. He plays great defense. He hits some home runs and stuff, but he doesn't drive in 100 runs, and he's great at third base, but you need Devers. You need the guy that's going to come in and drive in the runs. So I think that San Francisco just got a lot stronger because theoretically they didn't give up shit. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean that in a sense that Harrison's not in there. I mean, he's kind of in their mix, but he's not really in their mix, right? He took over for Hicks. And now they got rid of both of those guys because they can't figure out what to do with them. And they got guys that can pitch. So, they're not worried about that. And developmentally, they've got a terrible, minor league system. So they got rid of the best couple guys that they had. But to get Devers, that's pretty good for them. And I think that makes them pretty damn competitive out there because they can pitch. I mean, if you look at how many runs they give up, they don't give up runs compared to the other teams. So when you figure out how does San Francisco win, they win because they pitch, and then now they've got a guy that can hit. So maybe they can get in one of these 10-8 slugfest kind of games and go win them because they got guys like that. So I think they're pretty competitive now, which I didn't think they were quite as competitive as before. So I think to be honest, it's a good move for both teams. How it happens and where things shake out in the short term or the long term, I think they're going to both be better because of it. Even in the long term, I think both teams will be better for it. Now, I think Boston this week's going to have some struggles, but past that, maybe they get back home and play some other stuff. They'll be all right. But this is. They got Gilbert today, and I get it. Gilbert's off the IL, and you never know what he's going to be like. But he made 6 starts before he went to the disabled list. He gave up more than 1 run twice. That's it. Otherwise, it was 1 and 0s. So that's what they're facing tonight. And Giolito's pitching out there, and he had a great start, so he's not going to throw very well. it's Giolito, so it's kind of what he does. A good start, bad start, good start, bad start guy. And then Seattle's been playing pretty well, so I think they're going to run into it a little bit against Seattle. And then I didn't look totally at the pitching matchups for San Francisco, but that means you got Bello and Dobbins and those guys pitching against. I don't know what the matchups look like, but and it's in San Francisco, and I look at their home record; they don't lose home games. So it's going to be a tough week for them out there. And then once you can get over all that and get back, and what would be great is when Bregman comes back and they can finally get Yoshida out there and kind of get some other things going on. Get this team going a little bit more, give it a little bit more juice, get the kids playing a lot more. I haven't figured this thing out about the left-handed stuff. But I don't like the idea that they're not letting them face left-handers right now. I get it. You got to give them a shot and let them develop. And if they can't do it, they can't do it. So it's not. But you got to develop these people. You can't just not do it and say, okay, well, you're going to platoon and play against righties, and that's it.
San Francisco 41-31, as you said, 7-3. Their last 10, lost 2 in a row. Plus 45 in the run differential, 22-11 at home. So plus 11 games at home, 19-20 away. Not that bad. Meaning now maybe Devers will help them get over that 500 mark on the road. Going to be interested for sure moving forward. Kind of strategically placed as well, as with the Red Sox are gone for a week. Do the press conference today, let the dust settle. They'll come back home, I think, in a week, 10 days. So 7 games in all. You talked about the Red Sox at Seattle, Giolito versus Gilbert overnight. Seattle 170, now 181 with the 7.5, now 7. Baltimore facing your red-hot Rays. Money coming in on Eflin and Baltimore, who's starting to get things together. Angels host the Yankees, Soriano versus Schmidt. The big highlight game, San Diego and the Dodgers, and the return of Ohtani, be a bullpen game. Ohtani listed as the starter versus Cease. Overnight, 145 Dodgers, now 147 with the 9. What are you hoping to get out of Ohtani today? 2 innings?
So 2 innings is like 30 pitches. So if he can, so my understanding on how this is going to kind of go with Ohtani is he might be an opener for a month and a half. I mean, he might develop his arm strength that way to try to get to 3 innings, to 4 innings, to 5 innings, right? So I think, sometimes you sit there and you forget how good he is as a pitcher, because the truth of the matter is when he came in and he played for the Angels, he was a better pitcher than he was a hitter. And then he goes to the Dodgers last year and hits, 35 million home runs and does all the stuff that he does just as a DH. And you forget that he goes out there and throws 100 miles an hour fastballs. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. So what I think you're going to get here is I think you're going to get at least 1 inning out of him tonight, and you might get 2 innings out of him tonight, depending on how the first inning goes. But these guys, I'm telling you, Jeff, like I'm not as worried about Gilbert as I am Ohtani. Gilbert's already pitched a little bit this year, and I think he's going to come back, and I think he'll throw pretty well today. But Ohtani, he's got to make it through 1 inning, and I know that sounds like like holy crap, he'll make it through 1 inning, but that's not true. What if he goes out there and he can't throw a strike? And then all of a sudden you got guys on base, and this is the Padres. The Padres hate the Dodgers. So, and they got guys that can hit. So, and they're not afraid of Ohtani. Ohtani's pitched against the Dodgers once. He threw a game score 40 against them. Against the Padres. He wasn't any good against the Padres. The Padres hit him. So I think this is one of those spots where you sit there and you just kind of go, this number, my mind, the number's wrong. I think Cease, if you look at his numbers, he got off to a really bad start, but he's not bad right now. He's been pitching really good. And I now my biggest fear with Cease is the last time he pitched against the Dodgers, and he threw a great game against the Dodgers. So what does that mean? He's going to get hit tonight. So Casperius is going to be the guy that pitches a lot of innings for the Dodgers. It's going to be, Ohtani, maybe somebody else, and then Casperius or whatever. But Casperius is going to be the guy that pitches the bulk innings today, and we'll see kind of how that kind of rolls out for the Dodgers. But and they've got so many pitching problems and woes that we sit here and talk about other teams and other problems and all that, but nobody's got more problems in pitching than the Dodgers do. And the Dodgers are still number one in the National League. So, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, well, we're purposely holding you back. Well, look, man, they ain't going to be holding them back very long. Glasnow was out throwing yesterday. Blake Snell's on the way. When they get those two guys back and you can get Ohtani on the mound and, maybe, oh, my God. I mean, it's just going to be one of those spots where they're going to be really, really, really hard to beat ever. Like every team goes through it, like look at the Yankees. The Yankees aren't hitting. How often do you see the Yankees not score and not hit and get shut out and, and all that stuff? Not very often. And then the Dodgers kind of went through some of that. Teoscar Hernandez wasn't hitting. Betts wasn't hitting. Those guys. Ohtani kind of fell a little bit coming down, but, now they all hitting again. So it's all a cyclical cycle when it comes to some of that stuff. But pitching keeps you in all of these games, and that's, I think, where the Giants are pretty good. I think that's where the Padres have fallen off. Like the Padres haven't been bad, but their offense has just been blah, 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 blah. It's just like Jackson Merrill. I keep talking about how great he is. Well, shit, he hasn't hit for 2 weeks now, and Sheets, who got off to such a great start, hasn't hit for a little while, and the guy hitting is Machado. Machado's hitting, and Tatis isn't hitting, and Arise. Everybody loves Arise. I like Arise. I don't. Arise is great for the Padres. You know why? Because he's not counted on to do anything except get on base and score runs in front of all those other guys, and he gets a lot of slap hits and stuff, and that's useful in that environment. It's like Bichette for Toronto. He does all that same kind of thing, but Guerrero and everybody else behind him aren't quite as good as those guys on the Padres that doing that stuff. He don't score. So it's like his OPS, numbers aren't as good and as meaningful as in some cases. It's you got to be productive with your hits, and you got to do some damage. If you don't do damage, it's meaningless. You can hit 300 in Major League Baseball and be less than average at OPS. And that's how important it is to do damage. And that's what baseball is all being graded on today is OPS. You get on base and damage. How much damage can you do? And it's amazing when you look at guys that hit 300 or close to, with the Arises and the Bichettes and those kind of players, that they don't do any damage. And if you don't do it, your value to run production is much lower, and to total team winning concepts, it's much lower. It's shit. I mean, you're not a ninth hole hitter, but at the same time, if the guys behind you don't drive you in, your value is not very good.
Well, before I bring you to the front stage, you're going to laugh at this one. Phillies travel to Miami, Abel versus Alcantara. And we know Alcantara's just been a shell of himself. He is a big piece at the trade deadline if he can figure it out. I've been tied to the Yankees and a few other of the bigger teams. Overnight, Abel and the Phillies minus 130. Now at the Circa, the Marlins minus 108. So maybe we're going to get a little of that Cy Alcantara tonight, Scotty.
Yeah, I'm starting to look at that game because I'm like in the Philly side and that side. But the reason is, Alcantara's pretty good, right? I mean, we what was it, 2 years ago? He was the Cy Young. You go out there, he doesn't give up any runs, strikes out everybody or whatever. His strikeout per 9 innings right now is less than 7. I think the last time he pitched, he and I have his stuff pulled up because I wanted to. There it is. I wanted to go over that. So the last time he pitched, oh no, he didn't. You know how many times he struck out more than 7 guys this year? Once. In 13 starts, he struck out more than 7 guys once, and it was 8 when he struck out 8. Last time out, he struck out 6. So his game score, we're talking about game score a lot. Game score is 50 as average, right? His game score for the season is 42. So well below average, not even close to being average. He's just a below average pitcher. But what everybody's getting all excited about is the last time out, he's threw a game score 73. Okay, that's more like what Sandy does. And then the time before that, game score 63. So does that mean he's back? Well, let's look at context. Who did he play? So he pitched against the Pirates and against the Rockies. Okay. I'm not going to go and say that. So what I'm looking at is everybody's coming in going, oh, he's back. He's going to do this stuff. He pitched against two of the worst offenses in baseball. And now he's going to face the Phillies. So when he faced a good team that can hit like the Padres, game score 23. That was right before the 63. And then he faced the Angels. You know how the Angels are. They're not the greatest hitting team, but they hit home runs and stuff. Game score 39. And then he had the Rays. The Rays aren't the best hitting team, but they're pretty good. Game score 46. Look, he's going to face a team in the Phillies who go through a lot. They go up and down a lot. Well, guess what? They're number 1 in baseball after this weekend on offense. Number 1. So I get it. Some of these teams play some of these pitchers and do some of this stuff. And then you play the Washington Nationals and you get all this, and you can just score all kinds of runs. But when they're hitting, that's when you want to bet on the Phillies. You don't want to bet against the Phillies when they're starting to hit. So they're starting to hit, and Alcantara is off of 2 great starts, and they're against the Rockies and the Pirates. So it sort of says, hey, this is one of those sell high spots, right? And all these people are buying in, and they're going, oh, they're Miami at home. Yeah, look at their record at home. Yeah, look at them. There's hardly any. You know how many teams have losing records at home? Not very many. They're one of them. And there's not very many teams that have winning records on the road, and Philadelphia is one of them. So as you kind of look at this, I kind of sit there and go, I saw the number coming down. When I got on here, it was still, when I was on here, I have Profit X says minus 105, minus 104 game. Like, pick them. Like, I'm good with that. You want to give me that? Give me the Phillies because, you might only have to put a Schwarber up to bat and they might win the game. You know what I mean? That's the kind of team they are. The where's my other number on that? The offense for the Marlins, they're middle of the pack right now, which is good for them. But they don't get that. A lot of these teams get that. They get that home bounce, and the Marlins are minus 12% weighted runs created plus at home, and that's not good. And we just talked, they don't win home games, and not many teams get that good bounce on the road. The Phillies are minus 6% on the road, but they win games on the road. So it's and they're number 2. I said they were number 1. They're number 2. Texas is number 1 in offense right now. So it's just an interesting spot. I think that Abel, the guy that's pitching for Phillies, he throws real hard, and part of what everybody thinks is, like he's the next up and coming super pitcher or whatever. He's not. He's not like Painter is. He's not this, like that kid from Milwaukee. He's not those guys. He's just a kid pitcher that pitched pretty good a couple times, He didn't pitch really good the last time, which is kind of good news if you want to bet on him this time. So I like that idea. I like that concept. Like Sandy Alcantara, his number 455 is his Sierra number today. And Abel's is 359. Abel is off of a game score 21. Um, and that was his only bad start he's ever had. He's had 3 starts, 71 64 or 74 64 21. So that was normal. That's normal behavior. So he's going to pitch an average game to better today. And then you look at Alcantara, his number for the season's a 42. Against the Phillies, he doesn't do well. His game scores a 45 over his last 5 times he's pitched against the Phillies. It's not very good. So I like that matchup, and I like the idea that all these people are betting on the Marlins. I mean, are you kidding me? They're all betting on the Marlins. Anyway, situationally, when you look at this, the Marlins are 14-20 at home. They're 19-31 against right-handed pitchers. None of that is good for the Marlins. And the Phillies are 18-6 on the road. So I like all of that. The only caveat to the whole thing that I would tell you is that the Philadelphia bullpen is not any good. It was good for a little while, and then the guy got suspended. They still hung on for a little bit, but it's bad right now. Their bullpen's one of the worst bullpens in baseball. I wouldn't say it's the worst one, but it's pretty damn close. They're not very good in the bullpen. So my advice would be is look at this game in possibly a first 5 kind of look, see what you think about those and see what the numbers are there. You might even get a bigger dog price I haven't even looked at it yet. So you might look at it that way. The other games on here, some of these are pretty hard. Some of them not. Colorado plays Washington today. This kid Palmquist is pitching. He's 0-5 in his 5 starts. His game score for the season is 35. You mean you tell me you can't get a better pitcher out there that's going to throw more? I mean, better than a 35 in 5 tries. And Irvin is not the greatest pitcher for Washington. He's got a game score of 49, so he's average to below average. That it kind of shows you Washington over their last 10 games, they're 1-9. Over the last 20 games, they're 7-13. They're one of the worst offenses going right now. They can't hit. Colorado can hit. They just can't pitch. So this is going to be one of those weird matchups and games. This is kind of like that series was with Miami and Washington over the weekend. What do you do with Colorado and Washington? Nothing. Just let them go beat each other up and do goofy stuff and watch them play goofy baseball. Just let it go. There's no point. That Yankee game against the Angels will be interesting to me in a sense that, Soriano's pretty good. He's statistically, he's average to just barely above average. Schmidt's above average. But the Yankees aren't hitting. And if you're going to beat the Yankees, you beat them when they're not hitting. But you don't beat them at home. So you can do whatever. But the Angels don't mind playing on the road. They don't like their home field. So this is kind of just an interesting game for me in a sense that I'm going to watch it. With the Yankees not hitting. I mean, Aaron Judge had a bad weekend. So see what he comes out and decides whether they can hit. And just as a side note, Soriano is the best ground ball pitcher in baseball right now. Over his last 30 days, his ground ball rate's 75%. 75. Most of the time, you don't get over 50. But he's 75% of the balls hit are ground balls. He's given up 0 home runs. So if the Yankees don't hit home runs, it's they're going to have to find other ways to win. They're going to string hits together and do some different stuff and see if they can pull something like that off. They can, but I don't know if they will. So that's an interesting game for me. I do like this matchup too with Baltimore and Tampa Bay. What's interesting is Baltimore has been on a big run. I shouldn't say big run, but been on a run. They are in their last 20 games. Baltimore is 14-6. And we talked about this with the Boston, like just a week ago. If you can go 15-5, you can get back in the playoff run. Well, there they are. They're right there. Baltimore's 14-6, so they got to go 14-6 and then go 14-6 again just to get closer because they were so far out of it. They're 6-4 in the last 10 games. The Rays are 14-6 in the last 20 games, and they're 7-3 in the last 10. What's different about this is Baltimore is a good home team and a bad away team. They're 14-21 on the road. They lose. Where's the offense? They are minus Baltimore on the road. They are minus 13% weighted runs created plus on the road. So that means they're 13% worse than an average team on the road. The Rays are figuring out how to play at home. They got a winning record at home now, so they're doing much better at home. They've got a 11% kicker at home, 11 weighted runs created plus better than an average team. And Pepio has been good. So Eflin's been kind of here and there a little bit. Eflin's last start was a 69, which is great, 51-77. So his last 3 starts have been good. And he's a game score 53 for the season. He's a 386 Sierra number. Pepio is a 369 for the number. But Pepio is a game score 61 for his last 3 starts. But what you probably don't know is he's a game score 61 over his last 7 starts. That's what aces do. He's been pitching like an ace for his last 7 starts. And now he's going to get Baltimore at home. So I kind of like the idea that this is probably a mispriced game as far as I'm concerned. I like, where's my numbers out on this game? Here we go. I have the game lined out at Tampa Bay minus 127. And last time I saw it was like minus 110, minus 108, something like that for Tampa Bay. So I like them in this spot because I think you're getting a little bit of value and they're at home. And Baltimore's terrible at home. The other thing to keep in mind when you're looking at these standings, go look at what these teams do when they play teams over 500. It's important. And the reason it's important is because you can see fraudulent stuff real fast. So the Tampa Bay Rays, for example, are 29-21 against teams over 500. That's pretty good. That's actually really good. And the Baltimore Orioles, 18-28. Now, that's a pretty big separation between those two teams. And it kind of gives you the idea of, well, maybe that's how Baltimore's kind of getting back in this. Maybe they're playing some of these weaker teams. Tampa Bay just swept the Mets. So look at it from that idea of what power these teams have because of who they're playing. And it's quite impressive when you start to see what happens with some of these teams versus other teams. And that's one of them, I think, that is a big separation in this series because Baltimore can be good, but they're not as good as the Rays. They're not. So that line is off. Boston and Seattle, we talked about. This is a tough one because the line's kind of high. I'm staying away. I'm not even going to look at the first 5s, none of that stuff. I think Giolito is going to pitch poorly. Seattle's not the biggest home field advantage team. They've got one of the worst places to play in terms of run production and all that stuff for any team. And Gilbert should pitch if he's on. He's going to pitch. He's lights out. But he's first start off the disabled list, the injured list, and those things tend to not go well for those guys. So I'm going to leave that one alone. Houston and the Athletics, and I know that the last time I looked, the Athletics weren't listed as a pitcher. They still aren't listed as a pitcher, but the pitcher is going to be J.P. Sears. That's who's going to pitch. Now, the reason there's not a listed pitcher is they may throw an opener in there. So sometimes they have to decide whether they're going to put a guy in there to pitch for an inning or 2 and then let Sears pitch. So this is one of those spots. Where Houston, you want to bet Houston at home. You don't really want to bet Houston on the road. They're not a great road team, and not only are they not a great road team, they lose some value. Like their road record is 14-17, and if you look at offensively, where are they? There they are. Offensively on the road, they are 20% worse than an average offense. So they lose a lot of value at home. And the Athletics, they figured out how to hit at home. They can't pitch at home. They give up lots and lots and lots of runs at home, but they can hit. So McCullers, I don't know if he's going to pitch good there. It's just it's a weird spot. So I'm not really too favorable in this game on that side, even though my numbers say, hey, Houston's a good spot. I think the number's too high, -160. I get it. The A's haven't beat a lot of people, and the A's, where are they? The A's are 15-33. They only won 15 games against good teams. So this is a bad spot, tough spot for them. And that last game is San Diego and LA. I'm a little bit afraid to bet San Diego here because Cease pitched against them the last time. He pitched pretty well. In fact, his number was, I think, in the 70s, right? Yeah, 76. He threw a game score 76 against the Dodgers the last time out. I don't think he's going to do that a second time. I think he's going to get hit. I think Ohtani pitches 1 inning, maybe two. I think they're going to baby him, especially at the beginning. And then you're going to see Kasperius in the bullpen, and they're going to mix and match and do all the stuff that the Dodgers do to try to win this game. And it could end up being like the Dodger game with the Giants last night. 5-3, they win the game, or it could go 5-3 the other way, depending upon how Ohtani does and how some of these relief pitchers do. So, but the number's off in my mind. -150, I get it. The Dodgers, they're going to be minus a lot to everybody. But the Dodger bullpen's not the best bullpen in Major League Baseball, A, and B, Cease is pretty good. So I think that number should be a lot more narrow than the -150 that the Dodgers have. Now, there is no team that gets a bigger lift at home than the Dodgers. The Dodgers offense at home, they get a lift of 42%. 42%. That's a lot. And some of these teams get big home field edges, but none is bigger than that. So I think that's just enough to sit there and go, I'm not on these games. So we'll see. I mean, it's real early. It's only 11 o'clock. More information come out, find out who's playing a little bit more. So, some of that stuff can happen. Like yesterday, I backed off of a couple of games because I found out, some of these guys weren't playing. And, Buxton was a guy that was a late scratch and stuff, but I kind of knew that he got hurt the day before. So we'll see Lewis is not playing. So that's another team. Look at what Minnesota does against teams over 500. You want to talk about fraudulent teams, 17-25 against teams over 500. So, don't expect them to be there at the end. They can be there. They're a competitive team. They have a couple of teams that can pitch, but 17-25 against teams that are good records. I expect them to kind of fall. So anyway, that's what I got. It's kind of a short slate and not necessarily the greatest schedule of games, but it's still baseball. It's all fun.
I will be in Ionia, Michigan. I'm leaving Wednesday morning on a bus at 4 a.m. Be at Logan at 6:30. Wheels up around 8. Back in Grand Rapids, I don't know, sometime late afternoon. My point is, I will be talking to you throughout the week. See if we can figure out a time, maybe Thursday when I might have a little pause, or Friday, to get you on to do some Friday night lights, or Thursday afternoon, get us set up for the weekend. I'm going to close with this, Scotty, with what has transpired with the Red Sox. We talked about this a week ago. He's pitching today. With the money that is now freed up, would it behoove the Red Sox to maybe go back to the Padres and take a shot with that Duran for Cease? Knowing Cease is a rental, but maybe you can get that run. You can get a Crochet Cease, and then maybe Bueller. Bello looked good his last start. figure that out that way, or are we trying to move too much offense here at once?
Well, I think one of the things that Boston has done well is their offense has been pretty good for most of the season. They can score runs, but they just lost 100 RBI guys, so they need to figure that out. Um, and part of figuring that out is to shore up your pitching. Now, over the last week, their starting pitching has been great. Now, over the last season, for the whole season, that's not true at all. Their starting pitching hasn't been the best. Crochet's been their pitching. Bueller's been so bad, and he has had his moments, and so has Giolito's had his moments and stuff, and Bellows. They all had their moments, but they're average pitchers. So if you could get a Cease, if you wanted him, I would wait. The reason I would wait is because I think over the course of this season and coming into free agency and different things in the off season, you can prioritize what your needs are better. Like right now you might be making, I need to do this because we want to. Well, you're not making a run to the World Series this year. Now you might make the playoffs. You could be good enough to do different things, and you might ease your way into different stuff. But you can do like what the Braves have always done and kind of piecemeal certain things together to help yourself get to those levels. In the off season, you need to make a prioritized plan to go after what it is you want. And like they went in the off season and signed Bueller and Giolito and stuff, and thought, okay, well, that's going to help us with pitching. But they took a lot of risk because those guys are coming back off of injuries and stuff. Well, now they got to go fix it. They got to find a 100 RBI bat guy. I don't know where you find a lot of those guys. I mean, there's some out there on teams, but I don't know how you're going to get them. So we'll see what happens. You also got to find out what teams make it. Like what are the Braves going to do? If the Braves don't make it into the playoff run, do they blow that up? Do they start saying, hey, I don't need Ozuna? Holy shit, Jeff! Ozuna's a 100 RBI guy. Can be, should be, is. You want Ozuna can hit. You got guys like that are out there. The Diamondbacks, if they don't make it, they got guys that can hit all over that lineup. So how do you mix and match and do different things? It's just interesting to see where teams come out and come up, and what their plans will be, and how you can do certain things. I've seen Eugenio Suarez's name mentioned as a trade piece for not for the Dodgers or not for the Red Sox, but for player teams trying to get into these playoffs. Look, I've seen a lot of names that come across these things, and I'm going to be honest. I don't see a lot of people's names that, in my mind, are teams that are driving to make the playoffs that want these players. I mean, I get it. Eugenio Suarez hits home runs, but he's an average third baseman at the best, and he strikes out all the goddamn time. And when does he play in big games? You know what I mean? Like, he played for Seattle, he's played for the Reds, now he's playing for the Diamondbacks. When's he played in the playoffs and done a lot of stuff and damage and and all that. So anyway, food for thought is I like the way you're thinking about what to do. That they got a shopping, they got money, so they can go do whatever they want. But at the same time, I think that they really need to prioritize what it is they do want, because where are they? Where do the kids develop? How do they fit in? And we still need a 100 RBI batter, and we still need pitchers. So where do they get all that stuff, and how do they mix it all together? And the other thing I saw too was Willie Abreu, Willer Abreu. I don't know how to say his first name. He's kind of like a guy that people want. What do you want him for? I mean, I get it. He's a good player, but is he going to go out there and is he going to be the guy that drives you to the playoffs? That's the kind of stuff that I think people are looking at, and they're picking the wrong guys.
Well, we can't wait. We'll be in touch. Got you on speed dial for sure for the rest of the week. On Tuesday morning, 10:30 a.m., Andrew McGinnis will be back from Wager Talk at McGinnis Picks to talk some NHL. Game 6, will the Florida Panthers be back-to-back champs? We shall see. Brad Marchand, pretty good player. Why can't the Bruins get someone like that? Sam Bennett, the Conn Smythe favorite at minus 220. Brad Marchand, the second favorite at plus 450. Potentially the NCAA insiders will be back as well, back from Omaha. Couple of day game, night game tonight. So everyone have a great week. All Boston local fans, it's okay. It will be all right. You wanted the kids, you got the kids. Cancer's out of the locker room. Now I really will be keeping a close eye on Cora to see if he comes back to the Cora that I know coaching. Or is there still a tussle between Cora and Breslow, and who's the next one to leave? So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20 MLB. We wish everyone a blessed day. Enjoy the new start. Fresh week. We'll see you soon.